Easy Explain, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Self-Reliance from 1841, the second half. So the second half is where Emerson takes the groundwork he set in the first half of defining self-reliance, what it means to him as a concept, as an ideal, and applying it to four places or four offices that he feels the need that there is greater self-reliance in. And these are religion, religious institutions, education, art, and society as a whole. So we're going to go office by office, religion, education, art, society, at least one selection from each. There's also a little bit of the property problem in here as well, and then we'll also sum it up. It's a big essay for Emerson here. So let's start with religion. The first office in need of greater self-reliance for Emerson here, religion. So here's a selection I think does a pretty good job painting a picture of what he means by this. So Emerson says that discontent is the want of self-reliance. It is infirmity of will. The secret of fortune is joy in our hands. Welcome evermore to gods and men is the self-helping man. For him all doors are flung wide, him all tongues greet, all honors crown, all eyes follow with desire. Our love goes out to him and embraces him because he did not need it. We solicitously and apologetically caress and celebrate him because he held on his way and scorned our approbation. So here what Emerson is getting at is, regardless of your religion, if you're a self-reliant person, if you're helping yourself, that's almost transcending religious ideals, right? People who are religious will be looking up to you, right? Essentially, you're figuring it out, regardless of what religious teachings you may be trying to follow. Moving on to the second office, that of education, and what self-reliance in education would look like for Emerson. He says, the soul is no traveler, the wise man stays at home, and when his necessities, his duties, on any occasion call him from his house or into foreign lands, he is at home still, and shall make men sensible, by the expression of his countenance that he goes, the missionary of wisdom and virtue, and visits city and men like a sovereign, and not like an interloper or a valet. Traveling is a fool's paradise. So this is actually an interesting quip for me from Emerson. I would think based on the rest of his philosophy and even his life experiences, he really enjoy traveling and think that there's a lot to be learned and gained from traveling. But here's he's saying, if you're truly educated, if you have this self-reliance in your education, there's no need to travel. Right, if you can go to books, going back to the American Scholar, right, and how much so that books influence our thinking, you don't need to, right? But when you do, and when you're called out to travel, people will, really respect you, look up to you, revere you. You don't need to travel to get to that point, but when you do, people will appreciate what you can help them learn. Third office, art. What does greater self-reliance look like in art for Emerson? He says, insist on yourself, never imitate. Your own gift you can present every moment with the cumulative force of a whole life's cultivation. Every great man is a unique. That's not a typo. Do that which is assigned to you, and you cannot hope too much or dare too much. So this is, I think, getting after the idea that, like living your life. Life is art. You don't need to imitate anyone else. Again, self-reliance, be yourself. That is a gift of art in itself. And he goes back to saying, character is cumulative. We're looking towards the future, but at any point, any given moment in your life, you can be the unique individual that you are now. You can be self-reliant. You can do exactly what you need to be doing. You can be that individual that you are, and that is art. Fourth office here, society in general, right? Society overall. How do we need greater self-reliance there? Emerson says society never advances. Society is a wave. The wave moves onward, but the water of which it is composed does not. The same particle does not rise from the valley to the ridge. Its unity is only phenomenal. The persons who make up a nation today, next year die, and their experience dies with them. So here, we have this idea that, maybe not your typical idea of society, that it's always progressing, always advancing. When we get to W.E.B. Du Bois, he's going to say it's progress, right? Societal progress, in fact, it has an ugly face. Progress is ugly. Maybe there's a little bit of Emersonian influence there as well, right? It's not exactly what you might think. Progress doesn't lie in society, it lies in you, right? Because you're going to live, you are going to die. Focus on that. You're not going to change this whole giant system of social construct, but you can change yourself. And that's what you should be working on, your self-reliance within society. And then finally, before we close out, the property problem comes back. And if you've been following along from the beginning, we've seen this merge its head a few times. We first saw it with Locke. It also came up with Rousseau. And now Emerson has something to say about property, especially in light of self-reliance. So what does Emerson say here? He says, so the reliance on property, including the reliance on governments which protect it, which protect property, is the want of self-reliance. Men have looked away from themselves and at things so long that they have come to esteem the religious, learned, and civil institutions as guards of property, and they deprecate assaults on these, because they feel them to be assaults on property. They measure their esteem of each other by what each has, and not by what each is. But a cultivated man becomes ashamed of his property, out of new respect for his nature. So here Emerson is flipping this on the head a little bit, right? He's not so much looking at the ethics of property and the fact that there can be personal property and ownership of property. But he's saying, you know what, we shouldn't be as focused or as caring about it as we are. We should really be focused on our own selves, our own nature, our self-reliance, our own character. And you know, when you have that realization, you don't care as much about property. Interesting take from Emerson. Finally, to sum it all up, a parting message here from the essay of Self-Reliance. He ends with, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. None other than the principle of self-reliance, especially if you are fully self-reliant, that will give you some peace, according to Emerson. Hopefully it does. So that's an overview of the second half of his essay, Self-Reliance. Hope that helps.